Carp fishing to me has just been a way of life now to me. I've done it from so young. I used to have a caravan down Billing Aquadrome, and where there's quite a few of us in my family, we never got to go on holiday abroad, so we had a caravan down there and we used to go down there every school holiday. And while we was down there, all there is to do around there really is fish. There's like loads of rivers and canals and lakes. So all I done really is fish as a kid, so I just grew up doing that. So my serious carp fishing started when I started my work experience in a fishing tackle shop, and that's when I started really hearing about these big carp that was living in the country. And where I didn't read much and magazine wise and things like that, I just didn't have no knowledge of these fish before that. And that's when I started really getting out and pushing myself more. And it was about that time when social media really started kicking off, and I started seeing a lot of big carp on there. And that's when I really started getting a drive to go and catch them fish. But while I was working in a fishing tackle shop, there was a chance to go Les Talats in France. So I thought, oh, I was well up for that. And I went out there, didn't really know the people who I went out there with. It was just people that I got talking to while I was doing my work experience in the tackle shop. So I went out there with them, and I didn't even actually end up fishing with them. I ended up just going to fish one of the part, like round where the bailiff swim is, on the opposite side of the lake to them. And I think that trip I had 27 carp, up to 50 pound, and I was only 15-year-old. And that's when like the big carp started really kicking in, and that's when I was really wanting to catch these big fish. After seeing them 50 pounders in the net, I really wanted to see more of them. Just up the road from the tackle shop I was working in, there was a lake called the Dagenham Chase, and it had a bit of history in it. There weren't many carp in there at the time, maybe about 25, 30 fish, and there was some real good ones, not massive, but for them times 33s, 34 pounds, to me that was quite a big fish back then. So I started fishing that, and I've done around about 3-4 seasons on there, and that really learnt me about the different bars, line lays, the way the fish come into the swim, the routes they was taking and what times of day they come here and there. One of the biggest things I learned on that lake, and probably most lakes since then, I always look at a sun facing snags. Anywhere that's pretty snaggy and you've got a sun coming up from the opposite bank and it's hitting them beginning of the mornings, and it's got most time of the day where the sun's on that snag, you're going to find most of the fish will actually get in them snags. And I learned that on there. And just getting up in the trees and just searching for opportunities to catch the fish. And where I've done like mainly day tickets and things like that, you don't really learn nothing. You just go there and you put out your rods, and or you might get on a showing fish, but you ain't trying to put the puzzle together. So that was like my first experience of syndicate fishing, like getting back there every week, trying to learn what these fish were up to and where they was going and where they wanted to be. So the first time I done a bit of boat work was when I was at Les Talats, and that's when I really could see how effective it can be when you can fish near a marker and get that rod bang on the spot every single time. And then after that I didn't really do much boat fishing after that, because obviously the chase didn't allow that on there. Then from the chase I went and fished Roden Island in Kent. It's like a 45-acre pit with about 7 mirrors in it and 30 commons. And you was allowed to fish off the islands there. Pretty much you could go and see things that you've never ever seen before from the bank, and that you would never ever see. And then after spending a year on there, and it's hard to really find boat lakes that let you use boats on them, so they're far in between now these days. So from there I didn't really do much boat fishing after, and then I got onto Averley. I done a couple of seasons on there, and then from there I went on to the manor, and on the manor I met a couple of good friends, one of them named Matt, and he was getting on Kingsmead Island Lake the year after. So when he was coming on here I kept in contact with him, but I wanted to go back onto Averley to catch whiskies, mate. So while he was on here, he was sort of giving me the update on it, and he didn't do many sessions on here to be fair, but the first fish he had was about 34 pound, and then his mate had one, and he had the leather that ain't been out for 7 years, and that was 42 pound. And then after that, they didn't really seem to fish it anymore. And he kept saying to me, this is a bit of you. And where I missed me boat fishing so much, I thought, I'm going to do a bit of research on it. See what sort of fish are in here. Because there ain't really much done on this lake. Before I got on here, I could probably only find 30 carp on the internet from fish from in here. There weren't really much at all on it. And I like that. It's nice to have the unknown about lakes sometimes. So the next season, after I went back on Aveley, I had another go for that whiskies, mate. I ended up catching it, spawned out in the spring, but that didn't really matter to me because I just wanted that fish. I didn't care about the weight. And then from there, I couldn't wait to get my ticket onto here because obviously I've done research all through the year about it now, and I'm just dying to get on here. So I had my ticket and I couldn't get down for the first week, so I booked the day off work. No, I finished work early that day, but I had to do some things with the family. So I thought, I'll just leave this. I'll get down here early in the morning. And that night I was just itching to go out, so I've just ended up getting in the van, loading all my gear up. I thought, I'll get down here and I'll fish crayfish pool next, the one next door. Because I thought, because you can't go out on the boat overnight or nothing on here. And I didn't want to interrupt anyone else's fishing late overnight while they was out in the boat or nothing like that. So I thought I'd drop on the crayfish for the night and end up walking around the crayfish. Didn't even look at the island lake, to be fair. So there was a few people on crayfish that night, so I left that one alone, to be fair. And I thought, I'm just going to bivvy up on the island lake and just watch the water. And as I walked into Sailing Club Point, I was just looking out. There's a few poles in the water, about 100 yards out. I'm just sitting there for half hour, just watching the water, really, just trying to take it all in. And one just gone wallop straight out of the water in between these two poles. So I thought, man. So I've quickly got some rods out of the van. So I thought, I'm going to just whack a lead out there. So I've ended up just banging 3 out there to where I thought these poles were, putting them in the clip, reeled them back in quickly, put 3 pop-ups on a stiff hinge rig, on my normal little rig I use, to be fair, and I just whacked them straight out there. And then I felt a bit happy then, because I felt like I was on fish and I didn't expect to even be fishing this late tonight. So as I got all 3 rods out, they all went out lovely. It all felt pretty smooth, the bottom. I was happy with them, to be fair. And then I started setting up my tent, and as I'm setting up my tent, the rods must have been out about half hour. And it was like the sort of first time I proper used braid. So I didn't have my rods proper locked up in the butts or nothing like that. And I've just had a melting take and my reels just smashed up against my alarm. And I've banged and I've just playing that one. I ended up getting that one and it was a mirror of about 16, 17 pound. And I thought, wow, that ain't the ones that I'm here for. So I've ended up not even taking a picture or nothing of it. I just let it go in the retainer. And then as I've let that one go, I thought I'll get this rig ready. I'll just bang that out quickly and just get the camp set up now. It's about 3 in the morning now. So I've got all the camp set up. As I'm just about getting in bed to put my head down, my middle rod's ripped off as well. So I've been there about 4 hours, I must say, and I've had 2 fish already. This one was a common, about 27 pound. Real nice dark fish it was, really nice common. And obviously I've put that one back. I've done the pictures at 6 in the morning. There was a guy walking around, he helped me do the pictures of that one. So I've slipped that one back. And then this day I've actually got my boat out, the lock up and that now. So I've got all that out in the morning. And I thought I'm going to go and have a look out there today, because obviously I've never seen the bottom or nothing. I just cast some rods out for the first night. So I went out there in a boat and it was pretty clear. Where's the beginning of the year? There was nothing on the bottom. It was a bit barren, that was then. Probably about the 7th of March, I think it was. So I thought, I found a little tiny little hole, like a crater in between the 2 posts. So it looked like really where I was fishing. So I ended up putting 1 on each post and 1 in between the posts. And I didn't really do much looking about that day. Well, I'd had 2 fish down there. I felt pretty confident for another bite that night. And I did. I had another common that night, about 21 pound. And I've put that common back. And I thought, there's got to be some more opportunities on this lake than just catching these like this. So I thought, I'm going to have a boat about. Now, where I got down on the Sunday, it was the Monday now. There was only 1 other person on there. So So I've had a good boat about, and the first snag that I've come into, I found 2 small ones, and I've drifted along to the next snag, and I've pulled myself in there, and as I've looked into the back of the snags, I've seen leeches just come swimming straight towards me, like the first fish I've seen in here coming in the snags, and it's leeches, and it's just like sucking its mouth at me, looking at me in the boat. It weren't really that bothered that I was in the boat at all. And as that one's come through, this they call it the big two-tone, that's come underneath it and sort of just swum straight underneath my boat. Now that's like, I know that leeches has done £50 and I know this two-tone has done 49s because of the pictures I've got of it. So I thought, I'm going to quickly got the boat back to me swimming sailing club, quickly wrapped up everything, got straight in that swim, got all the rods on the spot, and now I'm thinking, lovely, now I'm fishing for some chunks. And then that night I didn't have nothing, and then the following morning, obviously this was my 3rd night now, and where I only get 3 nights a week, that was me last night. And that morning I had a small little stocky, like a scaly one, about £14. But I was happy with that really. My first session I'd had 4 fish, and I'd caught from 2 swims. Then after that I was thinking I've got to concentrate a bit more in this snags. One where I found them there the first session, and 2 big ones was in there. I'm thinking, that's it now, this is me, I found where I wanted to be. So I've done a bit more time in there. I ended up smashing it in there that spring. I think I had about 20 bites in there, or 23 bites out of that swim. It was like crazy. One session I had 11 bites in one go. Then matey boy come in behind me, like, he's a nice fella, Lawrence, and then he went on me, he jumped in after me, and he ended up having a big one that session off that spot, Royds, at 55.12 or 55.4 I think it was. Literally as I went, he had it the next morning. But that's just one of them things with carp fishing, you can't be on the bank all the time. One of the biggest things I must say I've ever learned fishing this lake, where you see quite a lot of opportunities happen on this lake, you do find a lot. There's a few fish in here. I'd say there's roughly about 120 to about 200 maybe. So you get a lot happen on here. So I was seeing a lot happen and I was learning a lot. So in the end I thought, I'm never ever getting off the boat till I found the sort of ones I want, where the water's pretty clear. You can search the fish out, and you can actually fish for fish a bit more, because you're seeing the fish a lot more. And I used to just, like, instead of just fishing for them first ones that I initially see, I'd make sure I check all the spots where I know where they sit first, and then I'd look for the ones that I want to catch and I'd jump on them. Because at first you get excited, you're in a boat, you find a fish and you think, right, I want to just get my rod out straight away on that fish, and you sort of panic a bit to get your rod out. But after learning about that, and obviously where I'd had a few fish now, I weren't just fishing for a bite, so I'm like more looking for the ones I want instead of just fishing for the fish. So that was like a big key factor I learnt on here. Don't get too caught up in just seeing the first fish and fishing from. Like, more look about, check all the spots. If you've got 2 or 3 days to come down here, you've got enough time to spend a couple of hours in the boat finding the ones you want. And if you don't find the ones you want, you've always got the chance to just fish off for them ones that you've seen before. So you've always got a backup. Like, them fish probably ain't going nowhere, them ones that you first find. As long as you don't spook them too much and you stay back from the snags, you can always go back to that snag, that same session. And another good thing I learnt, where you're in a boat, you can keep an eye on little spots and you can see things change. So I'd like bait just like an handful, mainly like crushed boily little bits. So I know it's probably going to stay on the bottom a little bit longer than other baits. If you put a few boilies out, a coot can have them within half hour, they can clear 100 boilies. So like I was putting more little dusty bits like all grind up boily, and then I'd go on just like only a couple of handfuls, and I'd just keep checking the spots. And I'd do 3 or 4 of them, and just on my way back from fishing, I'd check them and just try and learn as much as I can, as quick as I can, while I'm on the lake, instead of just getting in the boat and just having a preconceived idea of where I want to be, and just going there, seeing fish in there and end up fishing it. So I just try and make different opportunities happen. And another quite a big thing that I learned through boat fishing when you sorted out, I learned. I thought I'd sort of done it from the off. Like I see a lot of people going out on boats and they'll have a donk about with a lead. And what I've learnt from looking through the aquascope and just placing everything, like I will not lay my rig down unless I can see everything, and it is absolutely perfect. I'd rather fish in a bit shallower water so I could see the rig a bit better, because a lot of the time I do lay, there'd be a clear spot and it looks totally clear, and I'll go over it with the aquascope. I'd just start laying my rig down on it. And as I've laid my rig down on it, I'd look down through the aquascope and I'd see my hook ain't sitting quite right. But this spot looks gin clear, looks like pure gravel spot. And now I'm proper looking through it, you can see there's a bit of candy flossy sort of weed. You can't really see it, it's hard to see with the naked eye. But my hook could sit up funny off it sometimes. And when that happened, I'd always just bring it all the way back up and resit everything perfect again. And if you was just donking your rod about, you'd never ever feel them sort of things. So you wouldn't know if your rig was sitting perfect or not. And I feel like if you're in a boat, everything should be perfect. Otherwise it's pointless being in a boat. You might as well be casting, or just, otherwise you're just chucking it over the side of the boat and hoping. If you're in that boat, you need to be looking at as much as you can, really. Well, one of the biggest things I've seen through watching the carp out the trees, I was baiting a little spot in the trees just like for this purpose, just to see how they react and how they sort of fed. And there was one fish coming and all the other fish was just sort of feeding like normal carp, but there's one coming and he kept going over the bait and he'd just like flap his pecs up like that, and he'd only eat things from mid-air, so whatever was on the bottom he wouldn't touch. But anything that was 2-3 inches off the bottom, he'd eat from like mid-air in the water. And that was like a mad one where I thought, bloody hell, you probably won't catch that one on the bottom. So when I first knew I was getting my ticket on the Essex Manor, now it was such a big fish water and so many celebrity called anglers have fished it, it just was a bit intimidating. And I'd heard how much of a circuit water it was. So you do feel a little bit pressured going on to them sort of syndicates. But in the end, I just blank all that out and just not worry about what everyone else is doing, and just sort of crack on with my own fishing. You can only be happy with what you're doing, really. If you start worrying about what everyone else is doing, that's when it can start playing games with you. So I've just learned, as long as I'm happy when I'm on the bank, and I only go fishing to be out sometimes, it's not all about catching them, it's about seeing the wildlife and just spending time out in nature. Like I said before, where I had my caravan down there and I spent so much time outside, I think that's just a part of it as well. So I sort of, I don't really like let things affect me with me angling. As long as I fish the best I can while I'm fishing, I just take it as a normal thing now. If I could relive one moment in my angling, it'd have to be seeing the Lockwood Common go over the net cold. It just felt so daunting up on that water where there's no trees round it. It's just a big massive concrete bowl, 90 acres, with 20 carp in there, so there's not much to go on anyway. And I can remember I used to fish the Star about 8 years ago. I used to do a little bit of time on the Lower Maynard, and that sits up the hill from the Lower Maynard. And I'd walked up there 8 years ago, like you walk up the hill to it, and it's just open, look barren. And I just wondered back then if there was any carp even in there. Then obviously as I grew up fishing more on the Stow, you hear more stories about what's in there and what's not. And it's just like, I thought I'm gonna fish this one day. And I started fishing it, I started just going up there, because you can only ever do one Saturday, so you'd be able to do 2 Saturday nights every month. And then the rest of it was all day fishing. So to be fair, I was fishing the North Met at the time. What I used to do, on my way to the North Met, I'd always pedal bike round the Lockwood first, just seeing if I could see opportunities to go on, because you only need to be up there for that right 1 hour to catch them fish. If you can find them in the edge, they're well catchable, do you know what I mean? So what I used to do on my way to the North Met, where it's only about 15 mile away from Walthamstow, I used to quickly pedal bike round, the Lockwood, see if I see anything. If I didn't see anything worth fishing for and that, I'd just get back in the van and then I'd drive to the North Met, and I'd do, on my way back, I'd do the same thing. But every time, obviously, I'd trickle a little bit of bait in as well, just to try and get them going as well. At the same time, where I was coming back from the North Met, it worked out I was putting the bait in there twice. So only like carrying a kilo of bait over there with me, just putting half a kilo in one spot and half a kilo in another spot, and I'd do that so it'd be twice a week when I was going North Met. And I was doing every Saturday night I could up there, and the odd evenings and morning sessions. And I was doing that for about a year and a half. And all I'd managed to catch out there was a common, about 23 pound, but a beautiful fish. Every fish in there is just amazing. And I sort of left it after that. I sort of like lost the buzz on there a bit. Where it's so barren, it's horrible sitting up there. And I started fishing the West Warwick for a season. I had a couple of nice ones out of there, but they've had a successful breeding on there, and there's about 80 to 90 small commons in there now. So you get pestered with them a lot now, so I sort of lost the buzz with that a little bit, and I thought, oh, I can't let this Lockwood defeat me. So I thought I'm going to really concentrate back up there, and then I started getting back up there. I'd done 3 Saturday nights, didn't really see much, didn't have nothing to go on, and then I started doing a few odd evenings as well. And then one evening I went up there, I'd done a ride round, and I was speaking to some workmen up there who was doing some work on the bank, and they said they'd seen 5 fish swimming up and down this margin. And if anyone sees a fish up there, it's a good sign that they've seen them in the edge. So that night I just stayed up there, kept pedal biking around, and I ended up finding them coming back down to the weed bed where I'd been baiting, and I'd just been baiting on the back of this weed bed. Like every time I was going there, I was baiting this back of this weed bed. It was only about 15 yards out, must have been about 10, 12 foot of water. And knowing that, I've seen these builders now, and they said they was on their way up. So I kept going, pedalling around, and I ended up finding them, swimming towards this weed bed. So I sat there that night and I just watched them, because I only had an hour to the gate time close. So I thought it's pointless trying to get rods out now and spooking them. So I left them that night, and I thought, right, I'm getting down here first thing in the morning, and I'm going to get straight on that bait that I put out. Because they must have had it being there, and they was in the zone. But when I got there that morning, as I was about to I walked down to the bank, just about to lower my rig on the back of this weed, and as I'm doing it, the big common has swum in between me and this weed bed, and I was just like stood there in shock, thinking, wow, it's in front of me. And like, just being a fisherman, I've actually tried catching it there and then, but instead of like, I just flicked it towards sort of it was going. And as it was going up, they sort of see the splash, and it sort of like just turned around, didn't really seem too phased about it, turned around, and it sort of just swum straight back past me in the shallow water in front of me. So I thought, right, I ain't fishing on the back of that weed bed, and I just put it right where I see it, right where it swum past me. I just put about 5 or 6 10 millers around it, and then I walked back up the bank, stayed all quiet, just stayed away from that. You normally fish one rod, and then like another rod about 20 yards down there, then another rod, so your line lays straight, coming down the slope to the bait instead of running along it. And as I was about to do my middle rod, as I'm about to flick that one just on the back of the weed, the big bum mirror's done exactly the same thing, swum in between me and the weed bed. So I thought, no way, as are my chances for this. I've just seen the biggest common in there and the biggest mirror. So I put that one where I've seen that one, lowered that one went all nice, done the other one. I thought, I'm putting them all in the edge, they're definitely in the margin now. And so I sorted all my rods out as I've gone to just make a cup of tea or something, I think I was doing. That rod went where I see the big bum mirror first, and as that rod went, I planned that, and I ended up catching this mirror. It was about 24 pound, but absolutely jet black, proper stunner it was. So I had that one. I phoned my mate, I said, oh, I've just had one out of there. Like, it's like a rare thing really when you catch one out of there, where there's only not many in there. So he's come down, he's helped me do the pictures and that. As we're doing the pictures of that, my other rod's gone. Like, I couldn't believe it. I'd had 2 bites in one morning, and I'm playing that one, and we've both seen it come up out the weed, and it's the big common obviously. But where I've just had this little one, you've sort of left me 20 yards down the bank, So my mates had to run down there and grab the net, and just like when he got back, it was all over really. By the time he got back, we landed the fish, and it was the Lockwood Common. So yeah, that's probably like, just felt such a relief to get that one in the net. Like it was like a big pressure had come off me inside, that one. I'd say the best month to target big carp for me, I'd like to say spring, sort of May sort of time, beginning of May. But where you get that first influx of the sun, you get a lot of anglers out doing the same thing as well. So I'd say for me now, the best time for me has got to be October. Seems like the lakes are a bit more quieter. The fish have had all year to sort of do what they want. And it's just like, you got more chance of catching them where the lakes are quieter. I'd say my biggest mistake in pursuit of a certain fish is trying to keep quiet really. I'd say that's got to be the biggest thing in carp fishing these days. If you can keep things quiet, you've got more chance of catching them ones you want. Keeping quiet on what you're doing, because some things you could find and it's easy to tell people, because like we all do, we get excited when we see carp. So I think we feel like we have to tell someone. But even if it's only our mates, as soon as you tell someone, that's your chances gone by 50% then, because he might tell someone, or he might think, I'm going to fish near that zone. So I'd say the biggest thing is just keeping it quiet. Till you've had what you want on the water, try and keep as much as you can quiet. And I can't do that, I get too excited to tell people. So that's like one of my biggest things. Biggest tip about big carp fishing, you've got to be fishing lakes where the big carp are in. Don't expect to go onto a water to catch a 40 pounder when there's probably only one 40 pounder in that lake, and it probably only does 40 pound 3 months of the whole year. So I'd say the biggest thing, you've got to be fishing for the fish that are in the water. If you want big fish, you need to be fishing waters with big fish. I fished the Dagenham Chase for 4 years, and there was 140 common in there, and it done 40 pound for about 3 weeks of the season, I'd say, when I was on there. And I wanted a 40 pounder at that time, and my chances of catching that at the time I didn't realise, but it probably was only 40 pound for about 3 weeks of the whole year. So my chances of catching a 40 pounder or a big fish that I would have thought back then, I probably would have never caught it. So now I make sure there's at least 3 or 4 40 pounders to go for, then you've got a good chance of catching one in a season. Otherwise you could be on that lake for 20 years trying to catch a 40 pounder. So fish the lakes where there's 40 pounders.